Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda. I'm still in front of my bookshelf, which means my back hurts still. If you didn't see my weekly wrap up that I filmed 10 minutes ago, I tweaked my back this morning, so sitting for long periods of time is hard. So I'm going to do this video, which is my May wrap up. Standing here, I have everything written down. I'm also not going to be holding up books, probably because I just want to put back the books that I got out for another video and it hurts. So I'll just put pictures up. But anyway, if you've never seen my updates, my wrap ups and updates before, I have a formula. I have a little form that I use. So I just kind of go through the same thing. So just bear with me. First of all, in May, I don't know how this happened, but I read 20 books. I was completely shocked when I looked up that number because I felt like I wasn't reading very much. And yet I read 20 books. That's the most I've read in a month this year. I did DNF 2 books. I DNF'd One Day We'll All Be Dead and None of This Will Matter by Scaachi, Koul. I DNF'd it because it was pretty clear I wasn't the target audience and just wasn't something that was going to be enjoyable for me to read. There's nothing wrong with the book. There are probably a lot of people who love it. It just wasn't a book for me. And then I DNF'd The Awakening by Nora Roberts because if I didn't, it was going to put me into a slump like you wouldn't believe. So yeah. Now my average rating for this month was 4.2 stars, which is over an A. That is also the highest that I have had this year. So I think it is. I'll double check that. So those 20 books were pretty good, apparently. Yeah, so we'll go through them. Now, as for formats, 14 of the books were print. Also blows my mind. 5 were ebook and 1 was an audiobook. Now, if I break them down by genre, I always start with classics because I do not consider classics a genre, but I do separate them out just to say how many I've read. And I did read 4 classics, but they're all accounted for in these genres. I read 1 sort of general fiction. It's a fiction that I can't really fit in anywhere else. 5 historical fiction, 2 horror, 5 mystery. So 5 historical fiction, 5 mystery is pretty much on par for me. 1 mythology retelling, 2 thrillers, 1 nonfiction history book, 2 memoirs or biographies, and 1 nature science nonfiction book. And now let me go through the books by grade. Again, my poor back. I'm just, there's going to be pictures, even though I probably have the book right behind me. I'm just going to put the picture up. I had 2 books that I gave a B to. 1 was Hula by Jasmin, Iolani, Hakes. This was for my library book group. It just wasn't a book that really worked for me. It had one of those like second person or collective third person, collective second person, I guess, narrations. So kind of like a chorus narration, which was fine. It just didn't quite work for me. The last part of it I thought was pretty good because it was more focused. But generally, and I still gave it a B. There was a lot to discuss in it. One thing I do want to say about it is that I was talking with Sarah at Roadworthy and she says, oh, I should read that because I haven't read anything by Native Hawaiian. Hakes is not Native Hawaiian. So if you're looking for a book by Native Hawaiian, keep looking because she's actually many things. The closest we got to that is Filipino. So just so you know. And the other book that I gave a B to, now I have to explain this grade, is Shirley by Charlotte Brontë, which actually I could probably get that one. That one is right here. This is the copy I had in college. So the thing with Shirley, I did the compile rating system to come up with this because I really didn't know what to grade this book. There were a lot of things wrong with this book. There were parts that were enjoyable. It was better than Valette, which I gave a C to. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, if you haven't seen this, I give letter grades. Letter grades do associate with stars that I can put them on different sites, but I think of my ratings in letter grades. So anyway, back to Shirley. So I actually used the compile rating system and it came out to 3 stars, which is a B. I guess that's okay. I would say take that B with a grain of salt. Like a B, it probably doesn't equal a B for another kind of book. There you go. But I would say it's kind of on a par with Hula, so I guess that's okay. Then I didn't have any books that got a B+, but I had a lot of books that got A's. So the first one was Queens of the Conquest by Alison Weir. I read this for Historathon 2024. This covered a bunch of Matildas. Yeah, they're all named Matilda or Maud, or they They're all Matilda. And it was very enjoyable. I apparently was not aware that Alison Weir wrote nonfiction, but she does. And this is the first book in a trilogy. I have ordered the other two. The third one has arrived, and I just got notification that the second one, which was back ordered, is on its way to me. So I will have the whole trilogy. Yeah. So it's the trilogy is the Queens of Medieval England or something like that. But yeah. So this were the ones of the Conquest. I enjoyed it. And then the next one was Thunder Songs, essays by Sasha Lapointe. I read this with with Sarah Roadworthy. I think I liked it. I kind of get the feeling I may have liked it a little bit more than Sarah, but Sarah has read her first book and I have not. I wanted to read it before I read this one. I just didn't get around to it. It is very, it's very raw in a lot of ways. She's dealing with a lot of stuff. It kind of felt like I was sitting in on therapy a couple times, but it was also very well written, and she brought things up that really made me think. One thing that really made me think was she did a whole essay on the tulips. So she was in the Skagit Valley in Washington. They have a big tulip festival. Now I have feelings about tulip festivals because Woodburn, just south of me, also has a tulip festival, and the roads are a mess during then. And she talks about the roads being a mess, and I'm like, I hear you, girl. But in the Skagit Valley, not in Woodburn, the reason that they can grow tulips so well there is because it used to be marshland that they basically did irrigation stuff and turned it into farmland. And the thing is, when it was marshland, it was the land for Lapointe's people. And that was their way of life that got taken away from them. So tulips, which are very pretty flowers, also mean something else to her. And that was something I had never thought about. And I thought that was a very powerful essay. And there were a lot of very powerful things in it. As I said, just sometimes I felt like feelings weren't quite, they were still a little raw. Yeah, there were also a couple places where I felt like the order of the essays were a little strange, but then Sarah told me that some of the essays had been previously published other places and then put into this book. And I think that maybe they were separated because they didn't want to seem too similar, if that makes any sense. But anyway, I still really like this book. I am still planning to read her first one. Okay, next one. My first of 3 Agatha Christie books this month was Murder is Easy. I read an Agatha Christie novel each month, and this month's was Murder Was Easy. I'm reading them in publication order unless I'm not, if that makes any sense. Murder is Easy. It's technically a superintendent battle book, but it's really to stand alone. So if you've never read Agatha Christie, you'd be fine reading this one. It's pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good mystery. There is a love story in there I didn't think was well done. That's kind of my only qualm with that one. There is an adaptation of it that just came out last Christmas that is available on BritBox in the United States that I still have to watch, but I rarely get the television, so I don't know when that's going to be. And then, let's see, I got to turn my page over. This is the thing, I'm not on my computer, I have to print everything out. Oh, the next one is my second Agatha Christie of the month. This one is a short story collection called Midsummer Mysteries. Actually, I could probably pull that one pretty easily. Here's Murder is Easy. And Midsummer Mysteries. Oh, I should show you this too. These are my Agatha Christie playing cards. I've never actually used them, but I think they're cool looking. So they live up here on my Agatha Christie books. Oh, Midsummer Mysteries is still in there. That's why I haven't shelved it yet, so I cannot easily get that one out. That's a short story collection of stories set during the summer. I actually only needed to read 3 stories in that one to complete it. I had read the other stories elsewhere, so yeah, I'm counting it as a book read, but I only read a little bit of it. I have read the whole book, but this time I only read a little bit of it. And then I have The Sicilian Inheritance by Jo Piazza. I was inspired to read this book because it's still going on, listening to the podcast, The Sicilian Inheritance, which is sort of a true crime podcast about a legend in Jo Piazza's family that her great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother or whatever was left behind in Sicily while the rest of the family went like in 1s and 2s to the United States. And before she could come, she was left behind to deal with the property. And before she could come to the United States, she was murdered. And they're trying to figure out what happened. So that's the true crime part. That's what the podcast is investigating. The book just uses that as a jumping off point. And it's a historical dual timeline book. I thought it was fun. I don't want to say a lot of fun because I say it too much, but it was great fun. I actually liked the current timeline better than the historical timeline, which is very unusual for me. But there are some great characters in it. It is not, it does the heavy lifting for you. It's one of those books that you don't have to invest too much brain power in, because it does it for you. So it's a great short palate cleanser. It has a great sense of place if you want to like feel like you're going to Sicily. So yeah, it was a fun, it would be a great vacation read, especially if you're going to Sicily. Maybe not, because I talk a lot about the mafia. So maybe it isn't a good book if you're going to Sicily. Okay, the next one, talk about tough books. The next one is Confessions by Kane Minato. This is I would say it's more of a thriller than a mystery, translated from the Japanese. And I don't want to say too much about it because the joy is reading it and finding what it's about. But it starts with the last day of a quarter in a Japanese middle school. And the teacher tells her students that she is retiring after that quarter. And they ask her if it has to do with the fact that her daughter was recently accidentally, her daughter died in an accident. She accidentally drowned. And the teacher says yes, but the teacher doesn't think it was an accident. So that's all I'm going to say about it. Very propulsive read. My only complaints about it, I have two complaints about it. One is preference. The chapters are long. I wish the chapters were shorter or broken up. Two, there's like a HIV AIDS thing that doesn't work really well. But if you want something that's propulsive, it's a great choice. Okay. Then I had The Bandit Queens by Perini Schroff. And we read this as a buddy read. You can still join in on my Discord. There's threads there for it. The story graph is still going on. And this is about a woman in India who everyone thinks killed her husband. And so she's kind of an outcast, but she's okay with that. She's okay with it. And it's fine until people start asking her to kill their husbands for her. It was, I almost said it's a lot of fun. It was very entertaining. It was, I felt sometimes it leaned too much into stereotypes. Of course, that might be part of the comedy. The ending was a little slapstick for my taste, but generally a really fun reading experience. Okay. Oh, the next book is, I can actually pull, no, I can't. I took it to the other room. Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. This is for my library book group, which I'm discussing it the day after I film this. And we're going to have a little jump here for just a moment. Sorry about that. My husband's been cutting roses and he had to come in and walk through. So anyway, Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. This is a very beautiful historical fiction novel about two men and an indigenous girl. They form a family. And I don't want to go too much into that. I think it's really eye-opening because the world was seen differently back then. My only complaint about this book is that there was something in this book that I felt that maybe Sebastian Barry didn't understand quite the intricacies of it because he's not American, and I realize I may be selling him short on that, but that's kind of what I felt like. I talk more about it in my wrap up. It's one of those, I don't know. I'm filming this before my book club discussion, so maybe my thoughts will change, who knows? But that was just kind of that's what I struggled with in that book. Okay. Then I have The Innocent Angels by Alison Belsham. Also, I talked about this in my last wrap up and about how I am reclaiming the title of popcorn thriller and how that's about Jon Stewart and not Michael Jackson. You have to see the video to find that one out. I'll put it down below. This was the book I needed at the moment that I read it. There you go. This book, I will also say, because I have said in my book haul that it's not available in the US, I was incorrect on that. The entire series, this is the third book in a series. The series is on Kindle Unlimited if you use Kindle Unlimited, or you can buy it on your Kindle from Amazon for, I think, $4. I paid $15 to get it from Blackwell's, and I am okay with that. In fact, when the next book comes out, I will do the same thing because I'd rather give $15 to Blackwell's than $4 to Amazon. Okay, and my last one, which I can show you because it is right here, is my last Agatha Christie one, the one I had not planned to happen this month, which was Sad Cypress. This is actually my June Agatha Christie book, but it doesn't fit into anything that I'm just like any of the reading themes in June, and I had some time at the end of May, so I just squeezed it in. Actually, as a mystery, there are some problems with it. I figured out the culprit pretty quickly, and I don't think Agatha Christie played exactly fair. As a novel, though, it's actually quite good. There's a lot more character development in this one than in some of her other ones. And I really enjoyed my reading experience of this. Not an on-ramp to Agatha Christie because it's not typical of her. I would say get a couple Agatha Christies under your belt before you try this one. But yeah, that one was quite a surprise. And I'm glad I read it this month because now I don't have to worry about fitting it in June. Okay, those are all the books that got A's. Now I have a number of books that got A pluses. The first one is a short story collection called Walk the Blue Fields. I can say that, by Claire Keegan. This one really worked for me, which was good because the last story collection that I read by Claire Keegan didn't work for me. That was so late in the day. The stories I don't know what it was. It just didn't hit me right. And one of the stories in this is in So Late in the Day. It's the one that probably worked best for me. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, it's in there. But the other stories in this were great. There's the final story in this book is like the most Irish thing I've ever read. Loved it. And I love Claire Keegan. She is such a talented writer. And then I have Liliana's Invincible Summer by Cristina Rivera Garcia. If you heard me talk about this earlier this month, this was recommended to me by Michael Clark. And he said this, along with How to Say Babylon, were his two best books so far. And so I immediately put it on hold. And in the time between putting it on hold and picking up my hold, which was 2 days because there were no holds on it. It was just sitting on the shelf of the library. In that period of time, it won the Pulitzer. And so by the time I checked it out, it had like 18 holds on it. So it's a really interesting memoir. This is my husband. It's a really interesting memoir because it's not really a memoir. I mean, it's not really a memoir. It's more of a biography because the author, Cristina, her sister Liliana had been killed by her partner or her ex-boyfriend actually, in 1990. And for various reasons, that it was, I mean, everyone knows who did it. There's no mystery there, but it's still an open case, or it was a cold case, not a closed case. And so Cristina Rivera Garcia decides to go back and try to open the case and get some closure, even though we all know what happened. And the structure of it is very interesting because there's different parts of it. There's like Christina's experience going through and trying to get this open. Then there are sort of narratives from the people that she interviews, the people who were her friends at the time, and then how her parents felt about it. It was very powerful. I will say this though. So this was originally published in Spanish a couple years ago. And this book does not have a translator listed, which to me means either she translated it herself into English or she rewrote the book into English. So it's definitely written by someone who speaks English very well, but it's not their first language, if that makes any sense. That's not at all a negative for this book. It's just a heads up if you choose to read it. That's the kind of language. It's very clear. It's just that way. That's probably the best way to describe it. Just kind of a heads up on it. Okay. The next one I finished that got an A+ was The Comfort of Crows, A Backyard Year by Margaret Renkl. I'm actually going to, at the start of summer, because that's going to be an easy place to start, I'm just going to start continually reading this book because it goes week by week throughout the year. And so I figure like on Sunday nights or whatever, I will just read the essay that goes with that week because it was beautiful. And it really made me want to go outside and just experience sort of, you say nature, but really just like where we live outside. Yeah, it was great. It was definitely a book that's, well, obviously going to stay with me since I just said I'm going to be continually reading it, but there you go. Okay, and then Night Side of the River, Ghost Stories by Jeanette Winterson. This is a short story collection of ghost stories. It is not horror. These are not scary ghost stories. Some of them might be a little creepy. I found the ones that have to deal with technology a little creepy because I find technology creepy. Some of them are really beautiful and moving. There's some funny ones in there. So it's a real mix. You also get some personal essays from Jeanette Winterson in there about kind of her view on things. I don't usually give short story collections A+s. They usually get A's, just sort of as a default. But this one really earned an A+ for me because it really didn't have a weak link in it. So highly recommend that one. And if you are not a horror reader, if you are a scaredy cat, like I am when I watch stuff, I'm fine reading, but watching is a different story. But if you're kind of a scaredy cat, this is a great kind of like little tiptoe into it because it's not scary. Like just creepy is the worst as it gets. So it's fine. And then finally, my last A+ book for the month was And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott. I don't want to talk too much about this because anything I want to say would be a spoiler in my last wrap-up video, which again, I filmed earlier this morning, like right before this one. I give like a spoiler tag so you can hear my thoughts if you're okay with mild spoilers. But I will just say this book really affected me due to personal experiences in my own life. So yeah. Okay, I had 3 books that gave 5 stars, which is, I actually thought I only had 2, but then I looked at my records and I have 3. So I am just like, this like, I don't know, 7 or 8 5-stars this year. I'm like tossing them out like Oprah. But we'll see. The first one was Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. This was recommended to me by Roz at Scally Dandling about the books. This is set right after the Peloponnesian Wars in Syracuse, which is also on Sicily. There you go, another Sicily book. And it's about something, the jumping off point is something that did happen in history where the Athenian prisoners of war like basically saved their lives by reciting Euripides. And in this book, like these 2 guys who are just sort of they're sort of day laborer kind of guys. They aren't, they're not wealthy. They're, they're just sort of everyday guys. They really want to see Athenian theater. So they decide to get the prisoners to put on Medea. Is that the one? Medea? Yes. So it's a surprisingly powerful book. It is very funny in places, but it is also surprisingly powerful because it talks about, you've countries are at war and then what? Then what do you think of those people afterwards? I mean, fighting the humanity and the people who were your enemies, which I thought was just really beautiful and really poignant right now as we watch things that are like going on in Israel and Palestine and Ukraine. So yeah, I thought it was a very good book for right now. And the next one, which I have right here, I can hold this one up. The least surprising 5-star book of all time, James by Percival Everett. I am not a Huck Finn person. I forced myself to read it, didn't like it. I love James. Mostly because, it is an awesome book. It's very well written. It says some really smart things, but it also addresses a lot of the problems that I found in Huck Finn. You do not need to read Huck Finn before reading James, but if you have never read either of them and you plan to read both of them, I would actually recommend reading James first and then reading Huck Finn. It might make Huck Finn a little easier. Not that Huck Finn is a hard book to read. There are some structural issues with it that it still does not help, like the mushy middle. Mushy middle, by the way, someone once asked me, and I haven't gotten to that comment because I'm behind in comments, what a mushy middle is. It's just where a book just starts to drag in the middle of it. You're like, why are we still stuck in the middle? Let's get the plot going. Huck Finn has a big one of those, in my opinion. James doesn't help that. There's no help for that. But there are some other issues that I think going into it, having read James might make it a little more palatable. So, and then finally, it's down here, Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. This is her retelling of the Medusa legend. Very feminist take, wonderfully done. Natalie Haynes is, she is a classicist, but she also has a background in stand-up comedy and broadcasting. So she does the audiobook, which is how I read it, which is excellent. I also have the paper book back here, but I would have to bend down to get it, and that hurts. So we're not going to get it right now. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. Obviously, I gave it 5 stars. So those are the books I read this month and the grades I gave them. Now, let me touch briefly on read-alongs and events, and then we'll go over my stats. So, as for books I read for different events, for Historathon 2024, I did Queens of the Conquest by Alison Weir. I think that's going to be my only book for this month because now we're getting into a very busy reading month for me. I have a lot of stuff on the plate for June. So when we go into the 3rd quarter of Historathon, I'll have some new books. I need to figure out what I'm reading for that, but oh well. And then for Mental Health May, I'm going to count And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott. And for my book club, that was Hula by Jasmin, Iolani, Hakes. Now, my stats, or my reading goal, or the numbers. That's what I'm talking about, the numbers. My reading goal for this year is 165 books. I have read 75 as of the end of May, or today when I'm filming this. That puts me 7 books ahead of schedule, which I am happy about, because actually I tend to read fewer books in summer because of the big book challenge. I'm reading bigger books, or some of the books I read are bigger, which takes longer to get through. Just, time and math and all that. So I'm glad to have a little bit of a buffer there. Not that it's a huge deal if I fall behind on this. My goal, when I pick a number goal for the year, is mostly just to keep myself on track. So this is where things get kind of painful. My owned TBR count, so that's books that I own and have not read, is 853. I know that's ugly, isn't it? That is up 3 from last month and up 24 overall. That sounds scary, right? Okay, it's going to get even worse. It's going to get worse, but then it will get better. So if you just look at print, I have 283 books in print that I have not read. That is up 10 from last month and up 51 overall. Not good. Hence my new no-buy sort of philosophy, where I'm trying to train myself new habits around this. There's videos about it. But it gets better, because when you look at ebooks, I have 499 ebooks that I own and have not read. That's down 6 from last month and down 27 overall. I don't actually worry too much about audiobooks. I will tell you, this month there was no change in my audiobooks, but I don't actually worry about audiobook counts. Now, back to ebooks. If I break it down between Kindle and Kobo, I do have to explain a little thing about this. So the numbers say that on Kindle, I have 130, down 7 from last month and down 26 overall. I did a clean out. And on my Kobo, it says, oh, I didn't put the number down, whatever the number was. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It says up 1 from last month, down 1 overall. And I was like, I don't remember reading a Kobo book this month. But then I remembered when I was doing my Kindle clean out, I found a book that I had labeled as Kindle in my spreadsheet, which was actually a Kobo. So really, there was no change for Kobo. And actually, is that right? Because I did read, I can't remember. I don't know. The numbers are off. It's fine. Digital books are fine. They're my lifesaver right now, but I really need to tackle the print book problem. So there you go. That's May. Bring on June. Bring on Read Historical Fiction 2024. Bring on June on the Range, which those two work really well together, by the way. Bring on Pride. You can make that one work too. So yeah, we'll see how this summer goes. I'm looking forward to it. I have a lot of good books. My biggest focus right now, though, is getting the book buying under control and starting getting that TBR down a bit. So anyway, thank you very much. I am going to go eat some lunch and then lay down on a heating pad. So yeah, thank you. Like, subscribe, join my Discord. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.